Here we go, here we go. Marching east from my neighborhood. Just bought the last item, mashed potatoes, because I forgot. Look at this beauty. Just bought the mashed potatoes because I forgot. Price went up. Interestingly enough, I got it on special, but this used to be $1.99 3.5 years ago. Now it's $3.79, almost double, eh? I got two double, two of them, two different ones, and they're 215 grams each. Mashed potatoes, you just have to prepare it, you know. The powder, it's good quality. This one because I bought it before, but I got reduced, so I saved $1.79 double. So 79 times 2, that's 158, right? So $1.58. Don't ask me how I did the math. It just sometimes mathematics like that just pops into my head, you know. I don't have to take the calculator or all that. I'm not an expert, great super genius at math, but I guess my Asperger's helps somewhat with being above average in mathematics, although not so good in other things, but I'm always working on it and have for years. But back to, of course, the dynamics where we are now, of course, to be in the category, of course, as we go east to the mountain, my second home. And turn your heads left or right, or left and right with that, and sometimes which we have to do, of course, in the Appalachian is what we got. Let's get doing on that, you know. So we gotta get around that east, and going all the way, coming back. I'm a bit joyous, was a bit moody, you know, but gotta be grateful because I got a turkey, got the mashed potatoes, got a wine on special, affordable on special wine, and got some of that good soda, you know. So although financially stressed, I wish I could get a massage therapy session, but gonna take a bath during the weekend, long weekend here in Canada. Canadian Thanksgiving. This Quebecer, Canadian North American, was born in the United States 3 times post 1776, lived there once as a woman, twice as a man, and served in the same United States Armed Forces twice, 156 years apart. The wars which I served in were same U.S. Army though. Canadian, singing that rock and roll for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, grocery store clerks, truckers, electricians, the welders, the plumbers, those in the daycares who change some diapers. And Friday before the Sabbath, gonna keep it a bit briefer, I guess, as we go to the mountain and come back just a few hours because I went shopping and I had that big backpack with the turkey and the wine and the food, and I bought squashes. So I bought 3 big squashes to make them over the weekend, long weekend. We're gonna do that great Canadian turkey style, you know, Dragon Canadian turkey style. We're gonna cook those squashes real good and put some of that good in the oven, you know. So that's gonna be a Thanksgiving Monday here in True North Strong and Free. We gotta add some loving and justice and righteousness with that. True North Strong and Free, eh? You feel it how the temperature has dropped now, and now less and less people are gonna be spotted atop the mountain as I go to my second home, Mount Royal. Although we went yesterday, maybe today we're just gonna zigzag a bit from my neighborhood here. I see a few trucks there for the public workers lining up. Gotta salute the public workers, changing the aqueducts, the potholes, you know. It's always that meditative geopolitical theoretical analysis with yours truly, and get a little bit of that Halloween decorations as we go. Gotta make a call of the heart to please reduce the cost, of course. Reduce the cost of the Halloween candies, and of course gotta get that reduction for the children, you know. They're gonna get that loving with that, and they're gonna get, of course, their reductions. And mayonnaise, of course, is some things which we have to get that reduction. Always something which we gotta be meditating, because it's for the children, you know, the children. And that is just something which it is now to be in the concordance where we are now, grateful but financially stressed, of course. And that's what we have now to live, of course, in the relationship where we are now, you know. But as somebody who's neurodivergent, you know, who lives with this neurodivergence, of course, and living with this neurodivergence is something which I have learned in the past years, because for years and years and years, you got enough of my face with that. Gonna show off my friends a bit. I got some company. See, thank you, my anonymous friend. I got that company with that, and I got some company here. See, the lion and the 3 friends right there. See, once we get to the light, I'm gonna be able to show you more now. See, 1, 2, 3, the lion and the 3. And the lion, gotta kiss some lions too. My friends, thank you. This one I got myself secondhand, and this is the lion my anonymous friend gifted me. So, auctioning everything that I'm wearing, $1 million each. The underwear, the pants, the socks, the boots, the hat, the jacket, the hoodie, what I got underneath the hoodie, because I kind of suspected that I'm gonna have to wear something because it's gonna be dropping colder. So you got maybe 7 items, and that's $1 million each. Gonna divide it by half. Gonna split it 50-50. Give my anonymous friend $3.5 million with that. And I wish I could have bought her a house there by the river. Got a little bit of yellow flowers with that, and got a lot of things to be grateful for. Financially stressed, mildly stressed. As many millions of both my brothers and sisters in Canada and the United States. It's always my theories, protocols, initiatives are always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. And of course, always gotta put it up for the 63 in perpetuum. And of course, I gotta be grateful, because paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, paid my Netflix for October, and of course one more bill to pay. I got a notice 2 days ago. So 2 weeks, 2 days ago. That means I got maybe 18, 19 days left. No, 12 days left, because it was a 2-week notice. So before I get a big penalty, so I gotta pay it. Maybe even go over the weekend, if not next week. Gonna prioritize to go pay that bill, and think I got just enough to pay it, and then I'm gonna be tight for the rest of the month. But that's just how I rock and roll. Gonna make a call at a heart, Gonna make a call at a heart. I'm gonna make a call at a heart, of course. Call at a heart, Call it a heart to the millionaires to finance I would love to see the cost of the candies reduced. I would love to see the cost of the candies reduced, for the children. It would be something nice, for the children to be on that reduction, for them to be happy and joyous, because the children are innocent, and although myself, I'm going to get dressed up as well. See, speaking of that Halloween, you got that decorations, and I'm going to be dressing up on a budget. It's Rainbow Dracula. I'm going to be a different type of Dracula vampire, I guess. Ooh, wow. I got some witches. Hey, that's nice. I love it. Halloween, I really love it, And I'm gonna be wearing some of that costume. And if I would have been a billionaire, I would have definitely mass financed citizens for families to get the candies, and costumes. Because I know it's very tough. It's tough economic times, financial times, very tough. Geopolitical times as well, And I'm only thinking about those who have children and who have been at least upper middle class, and middle class who drop down, to the position of struggling, and paycheck to paycheck, paycheck to paycheck, sometimes choosing between a thing or another with mortgages and credit card debt, it's has become very problematic, and all the news point to that has just gotten worse, so that it has worsened for the majority of citizens, Not just in Canada, but the United States and many parts around the world are not doing that. Great with their economic, financial, commercial well-being either. So I believe my theory, DRT, detrital fusion theory, paradoxically, because myself have suffered, struggled, and been depressed, been suicidal, and have, I guess, suffered, struggled in many ways due to my neurological condition known as Asperger's, of course, also known as HFA, which I'm going to discuss, high functioning autism. And whenever I discuss it, I gotta give a shout out to my anonymous friend for gifting me 2 books on autism. They have chapters on Asperger's, but they're specifically on autism generally, and 1 book was loaned. I wonder what the number 44 there was about the car. This is an N.A.C.W.P thing. We might focus on certain number segments and details that others might not. And 1 book was loaned from a library loan 4 times. It's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. This one was specifically a book. It wasn't a gift because it was from the library, but it was a loan. So you have to understand that when I say Asperger's and HFA, it's one and the same thing, because in 2013, 2014, they merged together as one, right? They're one and the same, Asperger's and high functioning autism. Nice. I have a crazy Batman there. Some nice decorations and some nice Halloween, but that one I love it, That one I love it there, and quite nice. Quite nice, Nice lights, 4 on one side, 4 on the other. Disregard a little bit of that Defender on the go, So got a bit of God loving. So the relationship thereof is that it's one and the same. Whenever I use Asperger's or HFA as the condition which I have is one and the same, right? So it's of course one and the same condition we have now. So that is what we have to live with now, And it's just a divergence, It's not evil, not bad, not negative, not malicious, right? It's not evil, it's not bad, it's not negative, it's not malicious, it's not a disease, right? That's where we have to draw the line. And of course, gotta turn my head left and right, left and right, left and right before I cross the street. Just do it yourself. Although it's one way here, you never know, they can come from the other side, because they might be tourists, they might not know, and XYZ, as we have all, added responsibilities, duties, and obligation what we have now to be inside the relationship where we are now to be. That's something what we have to be doing, That's something which we have to be doing ourselves, right? Because we have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations in the public without being too intellectual, sophisticated, cosmopolitan, or academic about it, right? Me, you, us, in the public, we have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations which we would not have under the normal circumstances of life. So thus, I have to work in concordiate for my individual liberty, safety, wellness, and well-being, to be in total harmony, equilibrium, and wellness and well-being, and ensured liberty and security for each other's activities vis-a-vis our common space, the public space, where I'm doing this work video now in Hawk Island, Montreal, North American Collectif, the coming of our empire of the 63 as we're gonna fuse Canada and United States. We have my trinity of theories. So we're gonna go a little bit on Asperger's. Well, I'm just gonna make a call to heart before I do again to the millionaires, billionaires to please finance. You know, the children's joy and corporations. You can do it one time. Just reduce the cost of the tickets as well. NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB. And the cost of the tickets for the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB to be reduced. So that's just something which we have in common now. So those are the dynamics of living today in the environment where we are to find ourselves now. Nice red chair. Red, my favorite color, what I say. I see the red. 45 fighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, and the plumbers. I gotta give us all a little bit of that. Working the tool in the summer. Summer, spring, and winter be. I gotta see and gotta live it. For we gotta love it. On the left and on the right. For the be and for the right. And I got a little bit left or right up in the sea. So just who we see. Mediocre love. I know. Right. So we're gonna go hydrate there, and I'm gonna go to the mountain. It's before the Sabbath. A bit moody. Could really good use a massage. I'm not gonna be able to afford to go get that massage because I still have to pay my phone bill, and it's important that I do pay my phone bill. But nonetheless, of course, gotta pay my phone bill with that, and gotta get on that drill, And of course, all the civilizational complexes of which we are today now, in the dynamics, of course, to be and to meditate upon all the concordia, that I am able to take a bath, because where I live now I have a bathtub. I didn't have a bathtub before, I didn't have a bathtub before, but now I do have a bathtub, so that's great. And I'm gonna take a bath over the weekend, a long one, like more than an hour long. I took one, I believe, last week, so I missed. I was supposed to take one Wednesday and Thursday, then I didn't take, and then I just was so immersed in my activities, because I have these routines, ASPs. People like myself with HFA, high functioning Asperger's, and HFA and Asperger's, we're so immersed in our routines and so involved and super intense and super dedicated and super concentrated that, of course, we neglect other things. That's the problem with, and the paradoxical problem, because we of course lack certain social skills as well. It's more difficult for us to understand certain things which come very easy to you who are the neurotypical population. The vast majority of the population, you constitute the 99% of the population, compared to us, less than 1%, although I'm part of the half or who are unofficially diagnosed with. Those who are officially diagnosed are about 0.44%, but in reality the population is double. But I always say myself I'm semi-officially diagnosed, because for many years, since about 2016, several citizens and individuals and my friend has been telling me, you have HFA, you have Asperger's, that's why you have trouble maintaining friends, and you have these routines and these special interests, and you're weird, odd and bizarre and eccentric in certain things of the social nature. And for years and years, I always said no. 3.5 years ago, but starting since around 2016, as I recall, I was kind of, since then I was semi-officially diagnosed from people and by people who have experience in the healthcare system, So I'm just gonna hydrate a bit. guess for the miles that we're gonna involve to march. There's a good hydration. Thank you, workers. Build it, workers who build all the civilization, in the 20th century. So much brain and muscle has been dedicated for us just to have that water there and sanitation, like the aqueducts there. And sometimes I march and I do these meditations, and they're mathematical or philosophical in nature. Philo-mathematical, because I was meditating in terms of the weight, the length, and other more geometrical areas, and weight and length and width of the canals and the aqueducts and all that's underneath the city for us to have sanitation and running water. It's my thesis a few years ago was, I believe, February 2023, was the privilege of civilization. If not 2022, I started writing it a few years ago, but that was my thesis, of course, called the privilege of civilization. And that privilege of civilization, of course, is all of us. We have it. See, like, just the lights, the electricity, and the fact that I was able to hydrate there, and somebody can do dishes, take a bath, and wash and flush the toilet, All these, sometimes we're not totally conscious on a daily basis, but it is the privilege of civilization, as that was my thesis, called the privilege of civilization, right? So the privilege of civilization is the concordia to all of us having it. As I look towards the sky and I see a plane crossing, going a little bit transversal, red and green, I see a little bit of that red and green. So that's consequently a bit of a providential for the fact that red is for the Dragon Army, which is a call for a public-private partnership for total S, total D, total security, total service, total defense. And of course the green is for the dancing goddess army. And of course in the relationship there as we are to build the Imperial Integrated Dance League. And I'm different in the terms of being an N.A.C.W.P, and see how my brain now works now. At this point, event crossing here, I gotta salute the truckers. How many trucks are going now across the 63? With bread, with turkeys, with milk, with butter, with lettuce, with juice. This is going north, and the other one's going south, maybe towards the border. So see, all of these cars are now eating money. Not literally, but of course in many ways they are. What I want to say is that if they're not electric, even if they are electric, if they're consuming, of course, whatever they're consuming, it could be gas. It could be gas, of course, but it could be something else. If it's electrical or hybrid, it could be something else. And of course, if it is gas, they're all eating money. They're all eating money, right? They're eating money in many ways. They're eating money. They're eating money. And the fact that they're consuming the gas, that means that they're eating money. And they're eating about approximately 75% more than in the year 2019, 2020, because in February 2020 the average price of gas was 93 cents for the island of Montreal, and last month in September it was about 163, the average. And I remember during COVID at one point it was $2.25.4 at one point. I was like, wow, I never seen that. I believe that was like 2021, 2022 at one point during COVID. 2021, 2022 at one point during COVID. That was what it was, That was the reality, of course, of the price of gas. That was tremendously expensive. Even now, the fact that it is 75% average more than it was 5 years ago, comparatively to the fact that the salaries have stagnated. As a matter of fact, salaries have only increased by 4.4% in 5 years, while all the prices, the majority of the prices of groceries have went up. So that's always a calculation in my mind, you know. Although myself, you know, I paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, paid my Netflix on special reduced. One more bill to pay for me, the phone bill. Gotta salute the train conductors. They were on strike just last week, 3 weeks ago. They started their strike for a few weeks. 2 weeks they were on strike, so they were asking. They had even reduced, of course, the number, of course, of transit. They reduced their numbers of hours. So their strike, of course, was demanding, their request was 25% increase in salary over 5 years, you know, over 5 years. 25% increase over 5 years. That was what they were asking. The STM, the public transit of Montreal, they were asking for 25%. For 25% over 5 years. Right? So the bus drivers, the metro drivers, all the island of Montreal public transit system called the STM, Société de Transport de Montréal, Montreal Transport System. They were asking for 25% salary increase over 5 years. Now divided by 5, that is 5%. Beautiful flowers here, eh? Look at those, gorgeous. Eh? Really nice. So that means that they were asking for 5% per year, right? 5% per year. If we are to calculate, that means that they were asking for 5% per year. Right? 25 divided by 5. Now, considering the fact that over the past 5 years, each year, the prices of the tickets increased for the STM. Even a few months ago, it was $350, now is $375, so that's a quarter. So considering that the prices have increased for the bus pass, like 3 years ago it was $93, right? Now it's $100. Now it's $100. 1.4 years ago it was like $88 or something like that. So these are all the mathematical calculations. These are just mathematical calculations which you can proportion by. So of course you can proportionate these mathematical calculations inclusively in what their request was. 25%, of course, divided by 5 is of course 5. Right? 5. So of course that is just the reality. That is just the reality. That is 5 every year. Right? So now to check whether that would have been possible, I think it would be. I mean, my mathematical calculations is that it would have been possible. Now what they were offered, counter offer, was 12.5%, you know, 12.5%. That was basically the counter offer for the contract. So 25%, they were asking over 5 years. That's divided by 5, it's 5%. Right? 5%. That was their asking price, you know. That was their asking price. So that's, keeping that in mind, of course, is the calculation where we have, of course, to proceed in calculating thereafter the relationship by the increase of the prices of the tickets vis-a-vis the fact that they were not accorded the 25% over 5 years, which would have been the equivalent of 5% increase in salary annually, which I believe would have been feasible, right? I believe it would have been feasible. So that feasibleness is, of course, in relationship to the other calculations, which are also economic, financial, of the prices that have increased. Right, so just deducting that by that fact that the prices of the tickets have increased, the bus passes have increased proportionally over the years, every year for the past 4 or 5 years at least, annually they increased. Even the bus pass was like what, 85 at one point, like 4 years ago, 86 something. Now it's 100. So that is like 25% increase, you know. So just to make that calculation, they went on strike, and we have seen strikes like we haven't seen before, right? It's a big problem financially. Myself, my financial economic problems, to be honest, were mostly because of and still are, I guess, reverberating from that fact that I have this neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, Being that I'm an Asp, if I look at, I had many jobs. I really had a lot of jobs myself. I had many jobs. I just lost them, over the year. Even during COVID, I had many jobs. I just lost them, over the years, because of this difference. Because sometimes this difference is misunderstood, as a disease, as an illness. It's not. It's just we perceive the world differently. We process information differently. Sometimes we can be seen as abrasive or straightforward and direct. We don't mean to be offensive or anything in such a genre, to offend or be, to offend or to trigger or to incite or to provoke, or because we see the world differently. And sometimes we can be direct ourselves in certain things when asked questions, and direct and straightforward sometimes, and this can be a bit more difficult for us to comprehend. In the workplace, it's more made for neurotypicals, the 99%, because us, we're less, we're a tiny community, less than 1%, myself also being part of the LGBTQ community. I'm androgynous, pansexual. I'm not just an artist, athlete, philosopher, but also a mystic. I lived many past lives, many incarnations, Born in the United States, USA, 3 times post 70-76. One time was born as a woman, twice was a man, And when I was born as a woman, when I was born, of course, so there's gonna be, of course, N.A.C.W.P. And when I was born, of course, as a man, I served in the same United States Armed Forces. Beautiful flower arrangements there, gorgeous. Just love these flowers, how they're double color, red and white together. So I served in the United States Armed Forces, same Armed Forces, U.S. Armed Forces, 2 different wars. The wars were quite some time apart, around 156 years apart, 2 different wars. If you're into poetry and reincarnations and more mystic affairs, such as I am, a spiritual teaching student, because Goddess, it is always God bless, Goddess kiss our empire. Now we're atop the mountain, Mount Royal. Just before I won't deviate, see how we're far high up. So Through a Glass Darkly by George Patton. George Patton wrote a poem, one of my favorites, called Through a Glass Darkly, which he believes, he discusses his reincarnations there, but he didn't mention that he was my wife once. I was his wife once. Vice versa, we were husband and wife and husband, We were husband and wife and husband, vice versa. And I was the priestess Pythia who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus. In a past life, I was the priestess Pythia who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus in a past life. And here I am, atop one of the peaks of the 3-peaked mountain system known as Mount Royal proper. There's the moon, still full. 4 days later, still. Now it's waning, but I guess it's always full in many ways for some people like myself with Asperger's and this neurodivergence. And yeah, I'm an artist, athlete, philosopher, androgynous, pansexual, mystic. I believe in reincarnation. Sometimes I was born as a woman. I lived here between 1688 1734, and see how it goes down the slope. And here you can even go up, down, up and down. Now we're kind of in higher than the midpoint of the mountain, but actually we're kind of midpoint, because it goes high and high up. There it kind of goes really high, and then we're gonna go it goes really high, so you can see far off the mountain. It's right between the east and the west, interestingly enough. Providentially, I say right between the east and the west of the heart, but south, not centered between the south and the north, but between the east and the west. It's right in the center. So yeah, I wish I could afford a massage therapy session today, but hey, friends with benefits, please. Anybody? Gotta be 18 for that one. Black, white, black, or rainbow. Black, rainbow, or white, black, or rainbow, you know. Black or white or rainbow, you know. Wish I could afford a massage therapy session, just more like athletic, because I'm an independent athlete. My favorite sport, you know. My favorite sport is dancing. See how it goes down and there it goes up. So kind of now we're atop the mountain, but not at the highest point. We're kind of in the middle, you know. Kind of in the middle. Kind of in the middle with that. So of course, we get a little bit of Halloween decoration there. We got some skeletons. So all those dynamics where we are now, you know, and going east and coming back west, and gonna have to chit chat a bit about Asperger's. This pre-Sabbath special, Imperium, Draconis, Servitium, Legionis. For our empire, the 63 Adrian Hannah Dragon, keep my name out of your mouth. If it's not for a blessing, let's chit chat a bit on Asperger's and HFA. They're one and the same thing once again, right? They're one and the same. They are one and the same, Asperger's, right? So we're gonna discuss that now. So my neurodivergence, known as Asperger's and HFA, it took me years and years to finally accept it, you know, because I've been diagnosed in many ways by several people and citizens who have told me, you know, that I have this neurodivergence and that I am, of course, neurodivergence with that. And it took me some years to accept it, you know, So that was the acceptance, where I have accepted it, and of course it had taken me some time, quite some time, years and years to finally accept it, and of course now to work on it. So I gotta give a shout out to my anonymous friend, of course, you know, who wasn't of course my friend because of the money, because I never had any, but of course in the relations that I have to be thankful and grateful for the books. 2 books specifically on autism. One book was loaned 4 times. Of course, was discussing of course beautiful here, the Declaration of the World. When you come to Halloween, yeah, nice. One of the best as I go towards the moon there. That's so nice. So of course all the representatives where we are now to be related are, you know, to be now relegated. That was a nice Halloween decorations. So Asperger's, autism, is HFA, high functioning autism, is one and the same. It's one and the same. There's no difference. They're one and the same. Alright, so I will use both. So autism, high functioning autism, Asperger's is one and the same, you know. That is just the same condition with which I live with. Right? Which I live with. And there's no medication for Asperger's because it's not a disease, right? I can only manage to a certain extent the characteristics, the traits, right? The characteristics and the traits. That's all really that I can do. And most Aspies can do that. But it's a work, it's always a reciprocal. And thank you, anonymous friend, again for loaning a specific book on Asperger's. It was a loan, and it was loaned 4 times from the library, 4 times. 4 times. It was loan from the library. It was a library loan. So that one I really appreciated it. But it was a library loan thereof. And of course that was the appreciating Asperger's syndrome in comparison to the ones on autism, which were more general, right? The more general ones on autism included Asperger's, because Asperger's and HFA merged. It's now more in use. The condition is HFA, high functioning autism, but there's different levels of autism, right? And Asperger's is now known as high functioning autism, basically, like a form of autism known as high functioning autism, right? So it's one and the same. So that reality is that in 2013, 2014, Asperger's merged with high functioning autism. They fused together in 2013, 2014. So that's what you have to remember when I use both, because they're one and the same. So we have to draw the line where we discuss and say that it's not a disease, right? Asperger's is not a disease. Oh, there's public works here going on. I have to go by the side. So Asperger's is not a disease, right? What Asperger's is a neurological, mental, divergent condition. So a neurological, mental condition. It's a neurological, a mental, divergent condition, right? That's what Asperger's is. It's a neurological mental divergent condition. Neurological mental divergent condition. That's what it is. That's what Asperger's is. What Asperger's is not is a disease. I remember people when I was working, they were whispering in French, you got that Quebec French. Say, c'est une maladie, that's a disease, No, it's not a disease. Our brains are just different, we have these mutations, and as to the causality, what causes it, if it is, of course, if it is the fact that in pregnant women, well, Tylenol is the brand, really, right? So it's acetaminophen. Whenever I say it, I get some triggers of past life from ancient Egypt. It reverberates some linguistic connotation to a sacred scriptures from ancient Egypt. Okay, so that's a beautiful garden. Wow. Wish I could give my anonymous friend a little house, So that is the relationship between autism and the ingestion of this specific ingredient known as acetaminophen, which is found in several medicaments. Supposedly can cause autism if pregnant women use it. Now, I'm not going to pronounce myself on that because I really don't know. What I do know is the characteristic traits of autism, and specifically my form of autism, which I use to denote as Asperger's. So we draw the line where we say it's not a disease. We have traits, characteristics, which can be odd, weird, strange, bizarre, right? But they're not evil. They're not bad. They're not negative. They're not malicious, right? Yes, we are less able. We are less able in certain social communications, social communications can be difficult for us. Not all the time, but in certain situations, It could be because our brain processes this information more differently. While we have these strengths, and no, not all Aspies are good at computers and with computer science. Yes, there is a factual truth that within the Aspie population, but we are less than 1% of the total population, and you are 99%, there is a disproportionate number of Aspies who are good at computers, right? That is about 20%, 1 out of 5. While in the neurotypical population, it's about 1 to 4%. So it is about 11 times higher. But we're the tiny minority, right? Because there's not even 1% of us. But not all Aspies are good at computer science. That is more of a misunderstanding, a myth, a legend. But the tendency for Aspies, like myself, to be above average in IQ and some linguistic knowledge. And of course, mathematics. For myself, my mathematics, the ones that I like the most, are of course percentages, Percentages. And the percentages. Calculations of subtractions, fractions, subtractions, percentages. Calculation, of course, of fractions and lots of multiplication and division and percentages. That is what it is. That is what it is, that rock and roll, So that is what we have to live with today, and that's what we have to manage the characteristics, because you can't medicate. Of course, if an Aspie suffers from depression and suicidal, which is very high for Aspies, I myself lived it myself, I was depressed and suicidal. What got me out of depression and suicidal was when I stopped being depressed and suicidal after I crossed Canada, coast to coast, coast to coast. In 2017, in August and September, when I crossed Canada coast to coast, in 2017, that summer 2017 really changed my whole life, changed my whole perspective on life, I really established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians in 2017, my fellow North Americans in the 50 states, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, always for our empire. Let it rise and let it be, and always for now, always for today, always for tomorrow, with the future, of course, in the establishment of the new Imperial Republic coming in days. Let's get that summit on December 24th, December 25th. That's how we're gonna get on that rock and roll and See here how it goes up still. Turn your heads left and right because the brakes might malfunction, and see how it goes down there and it goes up. So that's what you gotta get doing on that drill. And here we are on the mountain. West Mount is 3 peaks of the mountain. 3 Peak Mountain can be seen afar off. West Mount, Outremer, and Mount Royal, Outremer, and West Mount, the 3 peaks right between the east and the west here. So it's not a disease, it's not evil, it's not bad, it's not negative. We have certain traits such as echolalia, repeating words, sentences, and the way we communicate socially can be very weird, odd, and bizarre, and strange, and odd and eccentric, but not bad, evil, malicious, demonic, satanic, etc. in a negative way. Beautiful flowers there. And we have to work on those characteristics to build bridges, because I'm willing, and the bridges we have to build for ourselves as individuals, for work, for contribution to society, and for the greater good in certain things, right? Because sometimes the bridges just like gotta be different sizes. Just like when you order coffee, fries, or pizza, you might order a small cup of coffee, fries, or pizza, or medium fry pizza, coffee, or large pizza, fry, coffee, or even extra large pizza or coffee. Those 4 categories usually manifest when you order pizza, coffee, or fries, right? It's small, medium, large, or extra large, right? So they can be different sizes, of course, but large, different sizes, of course, in the consequential appellations, of course, where they are, those different sizes. Hey, look at that. There's every year there's most pumpkins there. Those pumpkins that you see, they go all the way up. So when children or the youth and everybody that's gonna go, they're gonna encounter so many pumpkins. I love it, I love it, I love it. All the way at top. See, all the way to the top it goes. That's really every year I say, wow, so many pumpkins. See, it's like rows on both rows, and there's even below. Just let's go check. There's even smaller ones. See, it's very, very cool. Plus you got a big skeleton. So very nice for the children, See, they even got small, tiny ones. See? Really, all the way to the top, all the way there. So it goes there, all the way. Then like a snake, see? It's like a snake. The head of the snake is there. It's kind of cool. Very cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. For years. At least this is like the 4th or the 5th time. The 4th or the 5th time. See, it's all the way at top there. See? The pumpkins. So it's like 2 snakes. Like twins. Twin snakes. One on the left, one on the right. Going all the way to the top. Pumpkin snakes. So that's what we gotta do. We gotta build those bridges, and those bridges we have to build them with a small, medium size, a lot. And here's a snake inside the anaconda. See how it got stuck in the tree. The anaconda grew from below the earth. Maybe one day it's gonna awaken. I like snakes. I love snakes, spiders, and scorpions, and crows, and all that. I don't mind it. So now we're gonna go back to the. Now we're gonna go back to the finalize on Asperger's for moments, I guess, until we drink a little bit of that geopolitical juice. So it's not bad, it's not evil, it's not demonic, it's not negative. It's just a neurodivergence, And this neurodivergence is, of course, part of us living now today in the life-affirming manners where we are now. And we have to manage the characteristics, and we have to build bridges. I gave those 4 categories because, when you order fries, coffee, and pizza, you might order one of those 4 sizes: small, medium, large, or extra large. All depends on other factors, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all those aforementioned thereafter. So this aspiness can be, for example, as weird as inspecting objects close to the face. And I've been doing it for years. I remember years and years and years ago, and I still do it, but my friend doesn't bug me about it anymore, but remember a few years ago, my friend used to say, about 8-9 years ago, say, hey, you know that you look very weird. People are staring at you and looking at you like, what the hell is he doing? So to inspect objects such as cans, or chocolate bars, candy bars, whatever products on the market thereof. Whatever products on the market thereof. So I will inspect it close to the face, like bring it very close and inspect it for like a minute. Usually what we're doing is checking details on it, such as several numbers, as like you can see in my past video. I do a demonstration like, well, so I would inspect an object very closely like this to the face and look. For years, even before the trade war, I used to check the country of origin, the provenance, the expiry date, or the best before date. Even sometimes there's the manufacturing date. There's other numbers which indicate certain classifications, industrial standards, or even some numbers like, let's say, the number 1984 on it. Like, whoa, what is no? It says 1984 on it, on the object, I inspect it there and it says, of course, where it was produced, made. In the locale, in the factory, on the assembly line, on that specific line. It could be also that it could be the number for that specific day, week, or month, and that is the number that product was produced. The number in sequential line. So let's say they have on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, or even annually, or whatever, seasonally, whatever it could be for their standard and the industry that they had proceeded to do. It could be that number signify that is the number, let's say 2010, 2007, or whatever the number, that specifically 1904, whatever, 1947, whatever, 1984. That's the number specifically for that specific product. That specific product represents that how many there were before. So that means that the next one is going to follow, right? Because it's the total amount. Look, Dracula's got a bride and they have a child. Did Dracula marry the Wicked Witch of the West? I believe that's supposed to be. Not sure, but I love it. Very nice. They gotta made a child. Maybe I'm Dracula's child. Dracula's children. So that's what we gotta get doing with that, and gotta get a little bit of that rock and roll, And so that can be a characteristic. And I remember, if you see somebody doing that, that might be somebody who has Asperger's, by the way. So my friend years and years ago was telling me, you look very weird, you look odd, you look strange, you look bizarre, People are looking at you. I said, well, yeah. So yeah, they think whatever they were thinking that people are doing, Whatever they were thinking that people are doing, It doesn't really matter, because I can explain it, and that's what I still do today. When I go shopping, I still inspect not all objects, of course, something that's of interest that I pick, and sometimes you can check, there's weird numbers on objects. You might say, for example, on this, I'll show you, I showed it the other day. For example, this one, if I can grab it here, you can see, look. I'll take this object now. See, this object, I would inspect it, for example, very closely to the face, like this. Now this object has several numbers on it. It is not that visible now because it's at night, but you can see where it's made in the USA. And then you have certain standards, and there's a big number there, huge number. Now this number here is written very small, right? Very small, see? Very small. It's right there. It's not that visible, but maybe, let's see. Anyway, so it's a number, it's a really large number. So certain things of that nature, we would look at those special details on the products. And somebody might say, you know, I've been buying that product for 25 years and I never even noticed that there's that small numbers there. That might be the case. So it's, of course, this preoccupation with certain details, you know, certain details. So this preoccupation, of course, with these certain details are, of course, in that manner, such as we have, of course, now protruding to be related to aspy characteristics, to aspiness, basically, aspiness. So it can be very strange in certain ways that we move, or the clumsiness, or certain things can be more difficult for us. It's a kind of paradoxical in many ways. Certain things, you know, you have more difficulties with social interactions and social knowledge of social cues, social understanding. I'm getting better. Thank you again to my anonymous friend for loaning that book from the library 4 times. 4 times it was loaned 4 times, and it's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. And I learned, of course, how myself, you know, I am vulnerable, of course, myself. So my own vulnerabilities, because sometimes we don't know with the hive mind and the group mind, and we might not know, of course, all these relations, of course, which we have, you know. So we might not know certain things when somebody is antagonistic or hostile, or outright that we're about to get, you know, attacked or something like that. And with that book, another condition, I got better. But you know, I don't like violence myself. I am hyper vigilant because I survived a vicious surprise attack years and years and years ago, eh? And the Montreal Metro, I was hit in the head a few times. I don't know if it had something in the hand or not, but I fell, hit my head on the concrete, and I went to the Jewish General Hospital. I was bloodied up. I had my right hand shoulder dislocated, and I went to the Jewish General Hospital. I had my right hand dislocated, and I went to the Jewish General, was cracked back, and I was put on some meds, and I moved from that place. I was depressed and suicidal for a few years. And again, I give myself for four major things to do, and before October 31st or on October 31st, which is kind of go to the Jewish General Hospital where I went after I survived that vicious surprise attack, and gotta retrieve my archives, gotta clean my room, and send some documents, invitations for my dream, the Dancing Goddess Dragon Kingdom, and my geopolitical work, and propose again for the 3rd time to my anonymous friend. Gonna get that 3rd proposal. I got 2 no's. It's just since I am androgynous pansexual, it's gonna be a 3rd special type of marriage. Maybe cuckold, CUCK. If I'm gonna be a CUCK, it's gonna be the greatest in the universe, you know. But yeah, I have Asperger's, and that book is called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, and it has been a tough journey. The main problems which we have, and I don't know how I did relate it before, because, you know, I have trouble remembering my life prior to 2014, January, February, winter 2014-ish. I have trouble remembering my life. I have trouble remembering my life before, like 2014. I have trouble remembering my life, you know, prior to like 2014, you know, in January, February. And of course, sometimes memory comes back. I say that I used to lived there since I have some documents from 2010. I lived there, 2010, 2011. So at least 4 or 5 years in a very moldy place, underground moldy place. You know, there was lots of mold, and was underground in the basement. Underground in the basement, and that's how it is, and that's how we gotta get on that drill. He was on the basement, in the basement. There was lots of mold there, and I moved from there 2015. I thought it was 2016, and it was small. I didn't even have a proper kitchen. I didn't even have a bathtub. I'm grateful I have a bathtub now. And of course that's the Montreal there. We're gonna go zigzag it a bit, up and down, and I moved from there. It was lots of mold. I don't know if before 2014, but that's a long time ago if I think about it. 2014, January, February, since we're in October, so that means that March, April, May, June, July, August, September, so more than 11 years and 7 months ago. That's more than 11 years and a half ago, so that's a long time. So I have a very good memories just of the past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event made me come out of my depression and being suicidal, and that's when I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and here we are, a mountain. We're not going to go to the top today because we went yesterday. We're just going to go by the side. Actually, we're going to go by the side there. So let's rock and roll with that. Or we can go, I know another way. Maybe we could go by that side and enter in and exiting. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to enter there and then exit it from the side. We're not going to go all the way to the top. So I survived, of course, that vicious surprise attack. I was bloodied up that day and I was hit in the head, hit my head in the concrete, and survived. I guess tried to take me out, and here I am, and still financially stressed. Had many jobs. The 4 main problems which ISPs have is, of course, maintaining long-term employment. Maintaining long-term employment, you know. Maintaining long-term employment. Long-term employment. Long-term employment is a problem. Friends, that's why I got the solution. Don't waste my time. I will not waste yours. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Long-term employment is a problem. Imagine that the statistics for ASPE stands at 80%. 80%. Can you imagine that? 80% of ASPEs, people with Asperger's, are of course unemployed. Unemployed. 80%. That is major. 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 A big problem. 80%. 80%. 80% of ASPs are unemployed. High depression and suicidal rates. Depression and suicidal rates is always a problem. Is always a problem, you know. It's always a problem. It's 9 times higher. Then for neurotypicals, gonna let my mane out. Whenever I come to my mistress, sometimes she's fierce. Gotta let my mane out. My mistress, my second home here, Mount Royal, on the mountain. Always get a little bit of that good air. Always get a little bit of that good vibes when I come here. And I love coming here, and most times we go to the top, but today we're just gonna come by the side, round about it a bit. And, not gonna do a 3-hour video today, pre-Sabbath. Just gonna do a little bit of a shorter one. So the 4 main problems which Aspies we face is lack of friends. That's why for me, don't waste my time, I will not waste yours. It's friends with benefits only. You're 18 plus, you're black and white, we can do that loving with consent, you know. I have a weird pansexual BDSM switch. My sexuality is more comedic. I'm not sexually frustrated. I guess a healthy masturbation, but I wouldn't mind to have some friends with benefits, especially to exchange trade massages. So I'm craving one. Have been for years now. I got a substitute by taking that bath. So don't waste my time, you know. Or pledge your legions, our family, and my memory really, if it comes back or not. 2014, January, February, winter 2014 is already quite long ago. So as I guess rebirthed during more than, this is my 4th rebirth in this past 11 years since I died, of course. Since I died of COVID. 2020 I had COVID, Thought I was gonna die. It was like pestilence. It was like death, pestilence and disease. Like death, pestilence and disease, you know. Like death, pestilence and disease, and here I am, you know. Financially stressed, a bit moody, but get a little bit of that joy. And that is a beautiful sight of the Hakala Montreal from atop the mountain, not the topmost part, but from the mountain nonetheless. And the other problem is high unemployment. Is really, I had many jobs. It's just keeping long-term employment is more difficult for Aspies, you know. It's more difficult for Aspies. Maintaining long-term employment can be problematic for Aspies, you know. It's more difficult for us to keep the long-term employment. It's not that easy. It can be quite a difficulty, but it's just building bridges and knowing what is and what isn't Asperger's, and we have to draw the line, of course, where, well, people say that it's a disease, and do a little bit of outreach and education, and then I'm an individual sovereign Aspie, with my own individual experiences, as losing jobs, losing friends, and having had dealt with depression and suicide, which certainly wasn't easy. But I was depressed, suicidal for about 3 years, maybe. Let's say summer 2014, summer 2017, and summer 2017 I crossed coast to coast. In August I went with my anonymous friend in Vancouver, BC by train, and no, by bus to BC, British Columbia, Vancouver by bus. Then in September 2017 we went to Halifax by train. So I got the tickets, I kept them, I'm auctioning them, and I live with my scars, I guess, my PTSD, and my dream here. That's the fundamental work, which I'm not gonna go into because that's more important for me. My work as an independent artist, athlete, philosopher, and geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and that is of course just the problematic where we got to be now internally in the dynamics of being involved, to appellate and to conjugate all the ramifications of the life affirming matters that is the most important for me. So for me, for you, for us, pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. You gotta be 18 plus. I'm gonna card you just like when you go to buy a liquor or buy anything else of an adult nature. Liquor, or go to the club, or here legalize cannabis. We legalized it in 2019, so I don't do drugs much, not at all actually. I don't know if before 2014 maybe I was a junkie. I was doing maybe hard drugs, alcohol, and sometimes that's correlative to memory loss. Sometimes it's related to memory loss. Sometimes is related to drug and alcohol use, intense. If I was an alcoholic for a few years, or a junkie together with being an alcoholic and a junkie, if I was drinking alcohol and doing drugs for a few years daily, maybe that is, or the trauma or the mold there, the sickness that could have caused the memory loss. But sometimes it comes back, after a few years, or maybe COVID, I don't know. I just have trouble remembering my life prior to 2014, like January, February, which is a long time ago. So I live with this Asperger's, and I had many jobs. I loved the jobs that I had. It's just keeping them was a problem, and sometimes I just have to be told as many aspects more directly, also more straightforward if there's certain tasks, and that's it, and then being told straightforward, and so that we can improve, the whatever it is, the certain jobs I had in with the elderlies, with the seniors in steel, and in the warehouse, and many jobs in the ecological. Many jobs. So that's the rock and roll with that, and that's where we are now, fundamentally to be, Smells good, and that's what we have now, So here we are in the smelling good here, smells good. Smells really good, and we kind of have, oh yeah, that's divine. That's divine smell, love it. Feel much better, I'm glad I came. I wasn't going to, I said I'm moody, but then if I would have stayed home after my shopping, that was another hour of marching, because I went on foot, of course, and carried on the backpack. I said, I felt a bit moody, go see your other mistress here. Fierce mistress, but goddess. And before I go into geopolitics, my will, of course, now to say that I will to build the four buildings, construction workers. Gotta salute them first, the construction workers. I will to build on the Canadian-US border, the Imperial People's Coliseum, because it's a Dragon versus Trump event. If you don't know that, since 2018 I have been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match. Since 2018, I have been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match. 2018. Since Donald Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. If I die, when I die, not today, not tonight. Still gotta get that massage and maybe get a yes when I propose. And build a forgotten goddess temple, because I created my surviving COVID and being attacked by surprise, and all that I survived, I guess, to the goddess, and I will to build the forgotten goddess temple. Not that the goddess needs me or anybody to build the temples, me or anybody to build her the temples, because she's got the pyramids and I'm just a piece of dust. But my will to build here in the North American Collective Civilizational Complex, which we are a new civilizational complex, to build her the temples. The Forgotten Goddess Temple. Forgotten Goddess. Forgotten Goddess Temple. To build a Forgotten Goddess. GODDESS, Forgotten Goddess Temple. It's a Dragon vs. Trump edition. Imperial edition. Dragon vs. Trump. And to build her the Forgotten Goddess Temple. And the Imperial People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, which is going to be 11 times bigger than the place where the Super Bowl 47, one of my top favorite Super Bowls, known as Super Bowl 47, aka the Blackout Bowl, aka the Harbaugh Bowl, was fought, played and battled out. A few years ago, and my 49ers lost by 3. Please, NFL, NHL, MLB, NHL, NFL, reduce the ticket costs and give some tickets to the public workers, please, please. Might call it a heart. Give some charity, millionaires. So to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, Forgotten Goddess Temple, and the Imperial People's Coliseum, to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome in Louisiana. They changed names several times, just like I changed names, and still gotta pay to officially change my name. Adrian Hanna Dragon died during COVID. Keep my holy second name in my damn mouth if it's not for a blessing. Otherwise there'll be pestilence, so if you have an understanding thereof. To build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the house pyramid of the dragon, the scarlet crimson. Scarlet and crimsons are of course shades of red, and to build that on the Canadian-US border, the biggest ever sports coliseum arena to have sportists in perpetuities. And the first sport event is gonna be me fighting Donald Trump in a sportsmanship-like boxing match. It's a mistake, Granddaddy Trump, to have imposed tariffs on aluminum steel. It's a mistake, and the way to remedy that is me boxing Donald Trump. I got the red gloves in the backpack, by the way. Got those red gloves credited from my anonymous friends. Gifted me those gloves years and years ago. I lost some weight sweating in them. I'm auctioning them starting at $1 billion, preferably, to give her half. Here you can see downtown Montreal, the big skyscrapers, construction workers, let's build together the Imperial People's Coliseum. And now we're gonna start directing ourselves way back home, maybe by the south, maybe by the same way. You can see the moon. Or we're gonna go by the stairs, right here. I'm gonna do a little bit of stretching here. You can see part of downtown, so let's build the Imperial People's Coliseum. I'm gonna stretch my thighs a bit and head back to my headquarters. From the dragon's lair, from the mountain I came. So I had to come to the mountain, kiss my mistress a few. She calls me C-U-C-K, cuckold. I say, little tiny clit, dick clit, goes that rocket sometimes got his best with all the scars. Said, I'm balancing my karma with good deeds in the past 11 years and a half with some goodness and kindness. Please increase all in acts of goodness and kindness. And support the building of the Imperial People's Coliseum, 11 times to be bigger than the Caesar Superdome, which is in Louisiana, of course. And of course those are the buildings which we're gonna build, the Forgotten Goddess Temple thereof, and of course the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergent community and fellow LGBTQ community, because I'm part of both. So those 4 got those trillions of kisses I got the most. Let's head back to my headquarters now. Kisses I got the most. Rock and roll I got. Kisses I got trillions. Marching steps I got trillions. Rock and roll I got trillions. always for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, and the plumbers, and of course all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those now, nurses finishing their wedding. They got 1 more hour to go. Nurses across North America, they're 11 hours working, so they need a massage more than I do. The public workers also finance them, millionaires, billionaires, on my behalf. They could use a little bit of that. A good massage, because I could use a little bit of that. And the body's a temple for pleasure and purpose, Many of us are exhausted and worn out, exhausted, and financially stressed. My stress is financial. And I've been depressed, been exhausted, been suicidal, been hard battles I've fought, So I fight for you and fight for each other. For defense, though. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. For defense. SSD only. Security, service, and defense. The Dragon Army. Let it rise and let it be. Please drink, but don't pollute. I don't mind you drinking, but don't leave this here, Has to be recycled. Oh, there's a good plan to do some planting there. That's some French. So that's gonna do a little bit of that good. And I'm always careful, to be careful where I step. And I always clean inside for years and years and years. It's my second home, and you can see the beautiful moon. And we're not gonna go to the top today, because we went yesterday all the way to the top. I said today we're just gonna come by. We are basically on the mountain. As you can see, it's very high atop the mountain, but there's the topmost point where we did it yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. So today we're just gonna change it a bit, do a little bit of a different route, and go down and go up and head back to my headquarters, That's about that drill with that, and discuss some geopolitics, be grateful and for today. And I know somebody's making love. I'm gonna ask people that I'm very, very physical as well as I'm more of the mental capabilities, but it's gotta be put in the garbage, man. I don't know what that is, but yeah, that's just gonna be garbage right there. Please don't leave trash there. This is the mountains. See, we got the rocks, and this you can have squirrels, and we have squirrels on the mountains, bunnies, bunnies, squirrels, even skunks, You got bunnies, squirrels, rabbits, chipmunks even, So a bag like this, if they go in it, they're gonna maybe suffocate, and it's full of. I gotta disinfect my hands afterwards, So just throw it away. The garbage best. This one's the garbage. The other one's gonna be recycling, because there's recycling there down below. Over here's where you have garbage. So gonna finish on calling the building of the four on the Canadian-US border to build the Imperial People's Coliseum, where me and Donald Trump are gonna fight it out, and we're gonna have sporters in perpetuity. And the inauguration event is gonna be me fighting Donald Trump. So me and Donald Trump, we're gonna inaugurate the building of the construction thereof of the Imperial People's Coliseum. And then we're gonna have sporters in perpetuities and events every month. We're gonna have different events for different sector of the economy, for the truckers, the daycare workers, the nurses, the doctors, electricians, plumbers, welders, construction workers, the butchers, the bakers, train conductors, and of course security workers, public security officers, and men and women in public security, etc., 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 etc. Every month, bi-weekly, monthly, we're gonna have the special incursion, or every other month, if that we're gonna include those, because I guess public security with the firefighters can be included together, or with the public workers, I guess, and then other sectors, etc., etc., etc. And me, so mass public-private partnership. My dream is fundamentally a mass public-private partnership, because in both Canada and the United States in the past 40 plus years we've been privatizing. So it's time to equilibrate the equilibrium, the reharmonization, re-equilibrium of the public and the private. My dream is fundamentally a massive public-private partnership, My dream is fundamentally a massive PPP, public-private partnership. And my theories are mostly, as I say, I'm a democratic Republican and democratic universal revolutionary centrist. My centrism is tied hand in hand as being with my trinity of theories, and it's a North American centric, as you know, as a philosopher I always say that we constitute a North American collective civilizational complex, a North American civilizational complex which is not totally divorced but is distinct from Western civilization. So we have these distinctions, and for my fellow Canadian brothers and sisters, the king is absent, the king is absent, the king is absent, the king is absent, the king is absent. So of course that is the fundamental aspect where we have of course to be now, in all the concomitant of course relations where we got now to be, in all the domain of course where we got to of course appellate ourselves and be in the jurisprudence of course of being relatable to all the domains where we got now, as we have of course this concordiate now, and of course to be mindful of all these privileges of civilization as well. So the North American collective civilizational complex is of course something where we have of course to be involved in all the domains and all the relationships where we are now to salute the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, the electricians, the welders. And in that red backpack in the back, I got those red gloves, I got that backpack on. Hey, I'm grateful, of course, for those little muffins, and we're gonna feast a little bit on that pineapple. Thank you for that donation. The pineapple is gonna be some of that good. Pineapple, always good to get that good done there, and that's a little bit of that loving, and that's how we're gonna be drilling, man. And it's always something which is fun for me to do here, to put a little bit of recycling. As we see, this has to go into recycling. That's garbage and that's recycling, but it has to be properly. We see, like this bag, see, I'm gonna show you, like this goes there, but see this one also goes there. See, this one also goes there. See, the can also goes there. This is recyclable, right? And the bag also goes there. The bag, empty the bag, and this bag is actually all of it, however it's in it. This can be recycled, so we have to do it ourselves. See, that's why a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people don't do it. So one is for us. That's why I see it requires the individual action. If I don't do it, if you don't do it, then of course, then it requires individual action for the environment, for Mother Nature. And you check, sometimes I check and sometimes I retrieve and take both. Now I'm just gonna disinfect my hands a bit because I touched, I touched those, but we're gonna just disinfect with this hand sanitizer. See? I put a little bit too much. It's good to disinfect when you touch things, other things. Let's do 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Add 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But see, here as well. See, there's a lot of things that can go, like these ones. See, you have the recycling. These have to go in the recycling there. See, the bag of chips, the other things. So, see, like it has the recycling there. See, this can. You have to recycle it. See, this one is recyclable. So you put it in the recycling, the cap with it, see? This goes in the recycling. This one also. This one also. With not the tea bag is in it. So this one goes in the recycling, see? Not the tea bag. See, this one is recyclable. It has the sign there. It has the recycling sign on it. See? And this one also. This one is a recycler. So now I'm going to disinfect my hands again. See? So, I'm going to disinfect my hands again. just gonna disinfect my hands, but just meaning to say that we have to do it individually. Oh, it's cold, C-O-L-D. Gonna take a few seconds. Now my hands are disinfected. But, my brothers and sisters, that's why we need the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army, on the ground. Coast to coast for the 63, Canada, United States is a massive public-private partnership. The Dancing Goddess Army, you know, I'm that priestess, got those trillions of kisses. For the environment, we have to do it ourselves. We have to do it individually, also collectively, as a public-private partnership, but it's also the individual effort. See? 2 places just the top. I don't know I was in it. But, and vice versa, don't put what has to go, what goes in the recycling, don't put in the garbage. I see this, I've been seeing it, and I've been doing it, changing. If it goes into recycling, goes into recycling. If it goes in the garbage, goes in the garbage. We have to do the individual as well as the collective, and more education and action. Because it's fine to pump our chests and say, blah, 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 Mother Nature, ecology, but see? It requires individual action also, brothers and sisters. That just is one example. And both had things that were put in the garbage that should have been in the recycling. Right? Just that place. Imagine the whole island. Imagine whole of Quebec, whole of Canada, whole of United States. How much work there is to do if just these 2 corners, east and west, if that was the case. For that one particular. Just on both sides, there were items that were put in the garbage that should have been recycled. You get it? So we have to do the individual effort. We have to increase individual education and action, right? It starts with me, with you. That if we don't do it as individuals, see where it's good to discuss, to beat our chest, beat our chest and for the environment and be revolted, but it's the individual action is required. The doing of the individual action, proper recycling, proper garbage, it's not that only a collective responsibility for the macro level, the government or corporations. No, it's also the individual citizen, sovereign individual citizen to also do it properly, just like in the public there, as I showed you. So we can beat our chests and ecological, I'm environmental, but then we have to take the individual action as well, So it's not just the corporations and the governments, it's us as individuals also. It's the responsibility of the individual as well. That's why we need the DGA to encourage, educate, and dance, Priestess of the goddess. And, here we got that electricity comes from Hydro-Quebec. It's zero pollution, zero emission. It's something which we have to appreciate, work from the past, Because if we don't take individual action, and then individual action has to be encouraged and lauded and appreciated and saying good job, sometimes, so that we encourage that action and persuade, persuade, because we rather be persuade than punish, I'd rather be giving some kisses and hugs and tickles and singing some rock and roll for people who are gonna get with that DGA, with the Priestess Hannah, with the dragon with it as well. But again, it's the individual and the collective. It's a mass public-private partnership. So let's build the 4. And now I'm going to discuss geopolitics. So let's build the Imperial People's Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, where one of my top favorite Super Bowls was played, 47. And the Forgotten Goddess Temple, 11 times bigger than the Oratory of St. Joseph. Let it be 11 times bigger than the Oratory of St. Joseph, and the Rainbow People's Palace, and the House of the Dragon. Pyramid, scarlet, crimson. Those are basically, scarlet and crimson are basically shades of red. See how it goes down? So there we go down the mountain, and we can still go up a bit, but now we're higher from the mountain to the other peak, Westmount. So I'm gonna go into geopolitics a bit, and then I'm gonna finalize, because I don't want to do a longer 3-hour video this time, because I'm a bit chilly, and I did the other video before, and it's gotta go on some battery for the pre-Sabbath. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. You need to leave the baggage at the door. We're discussing geopolitics due to my Asperger's. Geopolitics is my special interest, and I am an independent geopolitical analyst, theorist, and philosopher, and thinker, and strategist. I develop strategies mostly for NORAD, North American Binational Collective of Canada and United States, BIPLEX, and the NATO, for NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, member states. Now, it seems that in the situation with Carney meeting Trump 4 days ago, there hasn't been resolved anything. There was no resolution. It is basically stalemate. There was no moving forward on any specifics. Now, what I'm going to say next, as Canadians, my brothers and sisters in the 50 states, this statement you have to accord in a positive manner. You have to say it as a yes, 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 yes. You cannot say no, no, no. No, you cannot say maybe, 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 maybe. Us, our main geopolitical interest, as Canadians, as my brothers and sisters in the USA, you have to accord it with a yes. You cannot say no. This, what I'm going to say now, is just like the pi symbol. You know, the pi symbol is a representation of the relationship between the diameter and the circumference of a circle. It is always the same number, 3.1416. It is a constant. That's why it's a mathematical constant. It does not change. It does not fluctuate, right? So it's a constant, mathematical constant with that. So of course, all that constancy being, of course, that is 3.1415, 3.1415, and it continues. It continues, right, ad infinitum. Is the relationship between the diameter and the circle. The diameter and the circle. So that is the relationship between the diameter and the circle. There, it is the letter N with two heads, two faces. That's why our empire would be two-headed, two-faced. One benevolent for goodness and kindness. The other one for punishing, and justice, I guess. Punishment, wickedness and righteousness, wickedness, wickedness and righteousness, wickedness and righteousness. Anyway, so one for goodness and kindness, benevolence, the other one to punish. Now, that is the strategy which we have to employ for us as we move forward together. So that letter N is two-headed, two-faced. One looks like a head of like a hawk, my totem bird, the H-A-W-K, like a bird. The other part of the end, the letter. It's like a letter with two heads. Slightly bent, weird, a bit awkward. It's the kind of looks like an N for Normandy, natural, neurodivergent, neurotypical, or a neuron, neutron, if you will. It has like two heads. One like a head of a hawk, almost like an eagle, and the other one like the head of maybe like an aardvark or a dog, a hyena, even an antelope or a donkey, something like that. It's quite unidentifiable, more earthly animal. So that's the pi symbol. So just like that pi symbol, we must work, Canadians vis-a-vis the United States and the United States vis-a-vis the United States, to establish, when it comes to a hierarchy of with whom we have to establish the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, military relations with, it is of course with the United States. There's no negotiating with that. There's no or maybe. You gotta say it yes, 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 because of our past historical precedent, our common historical purpose, our common social cultural development, and of course the other complexities which are to be added, which are to be simplified, as of course the geography, the fact that we have two oceans coast to coast. We have the Atlantic and we have the Pacific and the Atlantic and the Pacific, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. That is just the factual representation of course of the dynamics thereof. We have it of the Pacific and the Atlantic and the Atlantic and the Pacific. So of course that is the reality of our geographical realities. Due to this fact, and of course for us Canadians, the fact that the dissolution of the British Empire occurred after the Second World War, which has less and less power over Canada. I always say to my fellow Canadians, the king is absent. It's time for the Republic. I do believe that we should have been a republic on January 1st, the year 2000, more than 25 years ago, right at the turn of the millennium. Right at the turn of the millennium, of course, in the year 1999, December 31st, 1999, basically January 1st, 2000. At the turn of the millennium, we should have been a republic. We should have been a republic. That is just, of course, my representation, my take, because the king is absent. With whom do we have to establish the best relations, economic, social, financial relations? With the United States. Not Britain, not England, not... Although our Prime Minister pledged allegiance to the King of England, our Prime Minister, Uncle Connie, not to the Constitution and the people of Canada, but pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. Think about that. Uncle Connie pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. Can you imagine that? Pledged allegiance is my call to all for the Empire of 63. So, but although, my brothers and sisters, in the United States you have a border with Mexico, it is with us, Canada, that you have to work to establish the best cordial relationships with economic, social, military, although you have a border with Mexico, right? So that is if we are to establish a hierarchy, both Canada and the United States, with which country we have to work to establish the best relations with, and the number one place, it has to be for Canada and the United States, and for the United States, it also has to be Canada. So that is reciprocal. That's why it's like a constant. It's not a variable. So for the time, it hasn't been a variable for decades. It's not a variable today. That means it's not a maybe or a no. It's not a no, it's not a maybe, it's a yes. It's a constant. You have to affirm it with a positive, because it's a constant geopolitical reality, fact, right? So now the fact that since August 1st, the United States government, Trump's administration designated Canada as an unusual and extraordinary threat due to the fact that fentanyl has increased in crossings, that reality of growing super labs, the fentanyl drug super labs is a reality in Canada, and of course the lack of coordination. Now when you coordination between law enforcement, like the RCMP, the federal police here in Canada, so the lack of coordination also implies action. When you coordinate, when you cooperate, you can exchange information, right? When you cooperate, you can exchange information. You don't necessarily coordinate. When you cooperate, you can just exchange information, exchange trade information. When you cooperate, it's not necessary that you coordinate. When you coordinate, you take joint action. So on August 1st, the motive given by the Trump administration and Trump as to why you're going to increase tariffs is just the aforementioned three specifics. So the RCMP last year in 2024, October 25th, the RCMP dismantled the biggest ever drug super lab in Canadian history. 25th of October last year. It's going to be a year this 25th of October. The biggest ever drug super lab was seized, dismantled by the RCMP last year. I guess good job with that. The amount of fentanyl, of course, seized was 95 million doses. This amount could have killed the population of Canada twice over. Can you imagine the emergency, the crisis? And can you imagine that? Just one super lab. What if there were 5? And it was operated by transnational criminal syndicate organized groups. If they had then last year 5, that means that 5 minus 1 is 4 to go. 4 to go. Maybe there's one in Quebec. Maybe there's one in Manitoba. Maybe there's one in Ontario. Maybe there's one in Yukon, Northwest Territories, or in New Brunswick, or in Nova Scotia. It's possible. And it was operated by a transnational criminal syndicate organized group. And the RCMP has warned us since about 2015 of a growing transnational criminal syndicate organized groups establishing themselves in Canada. Since 2015 they warned us. The RCMP, the Mounties, our federal police. And even in 2021. And now I'm going to briefly discuss the DMAA, the Direct Military Assistance in Action, which is a great theory, protocol, frame of reference, and work tool. It has to be implemented across NATO because it's a possibility that these transnational criminal syndicate organized groups are financed. Hey, look at the Halloween. Children are gonna love it. Oh wow.
I am just an old crow. What brings you to my council? Perhaps you seek power or something darker. I can supply dark magic that will chill your enemies to the bone. But tread carefully, for the path you choose will be your undoing.
Wow. No thanks, I guess. You got some love for me? You got some love for me? It's sweet. It's cheap.
Beware, traveler, for these woods hold secrets. They are near as ancient as I. Listen to their words, for they may be your last. The very trees of this witchwood are sentient, their gnarled forms beckoning you. You do well to heed their warnings, for your own sake.
Wow.
The veil between life and death is thin. The whispers of lost souls echo among these woods. You see, your future is entwined with mine, as the twigs upon the flame. It sweeps away the unwary souls that dare venture here. If you linger, it shall be the last thing you ever do.
You got some love for me? Wow. Got some love for me?
Do you hear them? My crows speak the tongue of the dead, bearing witness to those who dare to linger here. You can run if you wish, but they will find you. Your future is as bleak as the night.
I love crows. I love crows. I love
And
crows.
let me see if you're worthy of joining my flock.
Joining my flock.
Listen closely, for the whispers of ancient incantations echo within these walls. Dare you summon the courage to uncover their mystery? Through the mist and shadows, I watch as you wander. Embrace the darkness, for within it lies untold power and insight. And let me peer into the depths of your heart. My star, but you are a sinister creature. Would you like to join my coven?
Coven? My... Papa Crowley would. You wanna marry me? I'm a priestess, not a witch.
Welcome to my haunted forest, Fear not, for I am just an old crow. What brings you to my council? Perhaps you seek power or something darker. I can supply dark magic that will chill your enemies to the bone. But tread carefully, for the path you choose will be your undoing.
Got some love.
Beware, traveler, for these woods hold secrets. They are near as ancient as I. Listen to their words, for they may be your last. The very trees of this wood.
Best. I love it. That's the best Halloween. Go for 2025. The witch. I'm not a witch though, I'm a priestess. Quite interesting. I think it had 6 or 7 different, right? It changes every time, and until you get to the end, the laughter is like the 6th or the 7th. quite interesting. So, I'm going to discuss the DMAA theory now, the direct military assistance in action. So, the direct military assistance in action is a frame of reference, is a protocol for NATO, whether we take action or not within non-member that members to assist or take action between member countries who are not part of NATO, because the DMAA has a consequence. And again, it's only military assistance, nothing else but military assistance or action, of course. And it has a consequence. The consequence is potentially that big powerful nation states, because of NATO and NATO countries' direct military assistance or action, that is, powerful countries, they might support transnational criminal syndicate organized groups and riots and formulate other problems internally, domestically, NATO member countries. And Article 5 has only been invoked once. 9/11 was the one and only in the 75-year history. NATO was founded as a collective, and still is a collective defense military alliance, North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries. NATO. And of course it was invoked, of course, NATO. It is, of course, still a North Defense Alliance, and of course it is NATO, which invoked Article 5 only once. Article 5 was only invoked once, right? Article 5 was only invoked once in NATO. NATO only invoked Article 5 once, right? September 11th. And now before October 7th, 2023, I had myself as a philosopher, a geopolitical analyst, theorist, thinker, strategist, proposed and had an initiative called Genesis 33 NATO Protocol, or Genesis 33 NATO Initiative, Genesis 33, of which I was advocating for both Israel and Mexico to simultaneously join NATO before October 7, before the attacks and before the war began. And now we have reached to the point maybe of a conclusion of the war, because there has been a ceasefire announced, although Hamas, last time I checked, they had 4 days to release the hostages. 4 days or so. 4 days, yeah, they had more than 4 days. I guess that was over since today, they released the hostages, so we'll see where that goes. Because if not, of course, if there's a breach of a ceasefire, then the war continues. But technically, a country cannot join NATO when in a state of war, right? In a state of war, more difficult to join that country. So now the DMAA, the direct military assistance in action, is not just a tool. And just like the motto of NATO is animus in consuelo liber, it has to be incorporated and deliberate. So there has to be a deliberation whether we take action or refrain from taking action vis-a-vis NATO member countries, right? Vis-a-vis NATO member countries, because that action has that consequence of, which can be secret polices, secret organizations, hacking, bioterrorism, biohacking, and other things of that nature, striking NATO, and even covert operations to support transnational criminal syndicate organized groups. Maybe that one that was seized by the RCMP, that super lab, was helped maybe by foreign powers. Because, for example, Canada, we took assistance, not action, vis-a-vis Ukraine. Ukraine was not part of NATO, right? So we took assistance by providing helmets, armored vehicles, drones, armaments, munition, etc. Military assistance we provide. So it has nothing to do, of course, but military assistance. It has nothing to do with other assistance, of a humanitarian assistance, in a way that it is, of course, humanitarian. So, of course, that humanitarian assistance is, of course, provided, has already been provided, but it has the consequences. So, of course, that consequence is, of course, that they have to be related in somehow, interrelated, and there's a possibility of the consequence. So just like the motto of NATO is animus in consuelo liber, which is Latin for a mind unfettered in deliberation, a mind unfettered in deliberation, so must it be, of course, in the consequential, of course, awareness of the prudence and the establishment thereof. So, of course, all that to say is that there is the animus in consuelo liber, where we have, of course, to be now prudent. So now the debt profusion theory, the DRT, debt profusion theory. So DRT, what is the DRT? Stands for D, debt profusion T theory. Debt profusion theory is my theory, financial economic theory, which must be implemented by nationalists. The bipolar strategy for the total BDD, benevolence, dominance, and dominion of the world and of world peace by fusing Canada and the United States into an Imperial Republican complex. Now, not to be confused with bipolarity as in the psychiatric psychological condition. No, the bipolar geopolitical strategy to fuse Canada and the United States, and this DRT, the debt refusion theory, has to be implemented. So I'm going to explain it now. My DRT theory also includes monetary integration theory in it, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. So now I'm going to explain it and pay attention to it fully, because it has to be implemented, because we're on the verge of a public financial collapse, see? Because four main problems are pressing. Beautiful, beautiful. I love this one here. Beautiful garden, how it's laid out. Just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So because of four main problems which are affecting my brothers and sisters in Canada and the United States, and those four main problems are growing cost of living, the price of milk, bacon, cheese, bread, etc. My wafers, chocolates are going up. Growing cost of living, stagnation of the salaries. Of course, the rents are going up. I'm not going to say by how much my rent went up, but even my rent went up, I'm going to say between. And what is between 6 and 10. But of course, for me, I can't complain, because it's a bit lower percentage what the municipality here, the regulations and rules related to rent increase is below what is allowed. So I'm not going to complain, but my rent still went up for the past years and years and years and years. It went up every year. So now this year it went up between 6 and 10, $6.10. So anywhere in between that. And the stagnation of the salaries and the growing credit card debt. Even somebody now swiping their credit card debt. So growing credit card debt, record breaking for both Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the USA, 50 states. Record credit card debt, stagnation of the salaries, growing cost of rents, and growing cost of living. Those four, right? The four in whatever order you put them. So because of those four, the main pressing on economic stress can be added out. There could be a crash, Scorpio month crash, October 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. October 17th, even before. So the DRT, I'm going to explain it now. The debt refusion theory. So I'm going to explain the debt refusion theory consequently now. Again, it integrates monetary integration theory. So the debt refusion theory has to be implemented, or something similar. There's no way out of this where we are heading now, and where we already are now in 2025 October. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt. All the public private debt, we're going to take it from Canada coast to coast. We're going to add it all up. All the public private debt, we're going to add it all up. Add all the debt. We're going to convert it into US dollars, right? We're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it to all the public private debt of the United States. Okay, and that money and the money in circulation is going to be laying the foundations for a new central bank. We're going to fuse Canada and the United States. We're going to lay the foundations for a new central bank. Whatever we're going to call it, a new central bank. We're going to create a new central bank. We're going to create the UE. U.Universal E.Exchange U.UE. U.Universal E.Exchange U.UE. UE. The Universal Exchange Unit. U.Universal E.Exchange Unit. UE. U.Universal E.Exchange U.UE. The Universal Exchange Unit, or the Imperial Dollar. But that's what money is, whether it's a shekel, whether it's a Canadian dollar, US dollar, Australian dollar, whether it's a yuan, yen, whatever the case may be. It is basically money, a universal exchange unit. So we're going to create the Imperial Dollar, aka the UE, which we're going to have divided the US dollar. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10% after that. There's not going to be able to be more than 10% as an interest thereafter. No more 11 and plus, no more 15, 20, 25. On some credit cards, it's 25 and 44% I saw. I paid my highest interest, I think, during COVID on the credit line was 13.4. Now we went below because they lowered the interest rates. So the past 8 times it was lower. So they put between 2020 and 2023 for 3.5 years they had put it higher and higher and higher. Now they lowered and lowered and lower. So they went high and lower. So now it's below 11% for me. But we're gonna have 10% maximum thereafter. With that money, by the DRT and the capital, which a public-private partnership is going to be required to us to implement the DRT. My brother, sisters in the public banking, and my brother Scorpio, Bill Gates, Scorpio of technology corporations, and Peter Thiel and of PayPal. I never had a problem with PayPal, actually. I've been using it for at least 7 years, maybe 8, 9 years. I never had a problem. my banking RBC, the only bank I have. I don't have credit cards. And we're gonna do, of course, this refusion. The DRT, we're gonna do refusion. It's gonna require also institutions such as my RBC Bank, BlackRock, and Blackstone are two financial institutions which differ. Both public and private financial institutions, public-private governments. Both. It's a public-private partnership that's gonna be required, basically. So we're gonna create this new currency, the UE, aka Imperial Dollar. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10%. We're going to get rid of the border. We're going to fuse the RCMP and the FBI. We're going to fuse the RCMP and the FBI. We're going to fuse them. The RCMP, the FBI. We're going to get rid of the border. We're going to do a census. We're going to do a great census, North American census. See who's been living here for the past 11 years, 7 years, 5 years, 9 years, etc., etc., etc. See, we can give some amnesty, and we're going to create Nova Civis. We're going to be the Imperial Democratic Republic, and it's not 51 states. It's going to be 13 states. We're going to add. We're going to fuse, and it's not an annexation. It's not going to be an annexation. It's going to be the best of the best, to know strong and free, with the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're going to add some justice and loving. We're going to mass rebuild the infrastructure, the bridges, and we're going to mass build 44 tunnels. It's not tunnels necessarily. It's city, underground city with tunnels, with tunnel structures. In case of a thermonuclear, for the continuity of the North American citizens' collective civilizational complex, in case that there is a thermonuclear war. In case that there is a thermonuclear war, we're gonna build this. In case if there is a thermonuclear war, we're gonna rebuild this. In case of a thermonuclear war, we're gonna build these 44 mass city tunnels underneath, and we're gonna get in the Golden Dome, coast to coast, for defense from ICBM rockets. We're going to put the Golden Dome, we're going to put a Hawk in it. We're going to implement the global, all the Dragon 911 total SSD security, service, and defense protocols and initiatives. We're going to mass finance fitness. We're going to give some amnesty. I guess if somebody has 44 criminal convictions in the past 11 years, we're not going to accord the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act, the Imperial Criminal Pardon, for people to work on those 44 tunnels, but we're going to implement maybe Imperial Dracula protocol instead. We're going to mass build the Publik, rebuild the bridges, the aqueducts, mass finance fitness. We're going to also mass finance tourism. Every season, we're going to have spring, summer, autumn, winter. Every season, we're going to finance 4 days when one citizen of the coming of our empire, the 63, when one citizen who is 16 and older automatically is going to be credited 4 nights for hotel, motel across the 63, where you can go and have hotel, transportation, hotel, motel, food, housing, and transport, and be able to visit any place across the 63. You can take 4 times a year, or accumulate, take 8 twice a year. So every season, so 4 seasons times 4, that's 4 times 4, that's 16 days a year total. The citizens 16 of age and older is going to be accorded. Once you're 16, automatically, this, whatever, if you're black, white, or rainbow, whatever you are, as Nova Civis, this is going to be, of course, making us establish a strong esprit de corps. Of course, the strong esprit de corps with the fellow Canadians, of course, to be in, of course, in the Appalachians where we have now, to be in all the relationships where we are, of course, now, to be in the dynamics where we are, in conclusiveness, of course, to be in all the relationship where we are now, is, of course, all these dynamics. So, of course, all that is to say that this is going to rejuvenate, recreate, and re-emerge and re-establish an imperial esprit de corps. Are going to fuse kind of the United States, the 10, the 3, the 50. Always we're going to be perpetual Imperial Republic. We're going to constitution for perpetual union of the 63. There's going to be a perpetual union. We're going to mass finance this new concordiate, a new public-private partnership, a new concordiate. We're going to finance fitness, mass finance citizens to train, to exercise, mass finance the imperial protocols, of course, mass finance these imperial protocols. So that's what we're going to do. And of course, we're going to mass finance these imperial protocols thereof, and that's what we're going to be doing. Mass finance the concordiate, the imperial protocols for total rehabilitation, total rejuvenation. Mass finance the 2 complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. the Draconis, aka the Imperial SSD Legion only for SSD integrated with existing security institutions. Gonna fuse the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the RCMP. We're gonna have the Imperial Homeland Defense, which is gonna integrate the police services, and the FBI and the RCMP is gonna be fused in the Imperial Police Service. It's gonna be for SSD, where we're gonna see, manage, and support the Imperial Tourist Project, which four times a year, 4 times 4, 16 days. The youth and elders and all alike will be financed these 4 days, where food, housing, and lodging is of course accorded. But of course, once you cross midnight, second, you lose the night. So 4 nights you can take. For me, that's gonna be also for me. Is going to apply to myself as well for 4 days to everybody 16 and over. So 4 times 4 food lodging. You can go from Quebec to California, anywhere across the new empire. 63 is going to be special. You can take twice a year, 8 days, or 4 days. You can take, it's 4 nights basically. Or once you get to 44 is use them or lose them, use them or lose them. So, or once a year, 16 days. I'm going to go 6 days there, 10 days there, grow coast to coast, or just travel, see the whole empire in those 16 days, because in the 4 you won't be able. So that's the rock and roll for that. That's what we're gonna get that drill for the youth. Pledge your allegiance. That's what we gotta get, of course, now, to get, of course, all the dimensions where we are, the fundamentals aspects.